Hey everybody, Edo here, and this week I want to talk about delegation. What it is, why it's important, how to do it, that kind of thing. Now, over the years, I've gotten to know lots of Kickstarter creators, and I've gotten to know lots of small indie publishers. You know, one-man, two-man, one-man, whomever, shops that do a lot of work in producing and manufacturing and making board games. And then I also see a sea of new folks and different folks who I might not know on a one-to-one basis, but I see their questions and the things they appear to be struggling with and all that stuff. And one of the things that is a very, very common problem is over time, that individual is doing more and more work and struggling to hand it off to other people, and by virtue of the creation and business sides of board game making, find themselves not doing what they love anymore, right? Find themselves not having time to make games, but just focusing on social media, customer service, or all these other things, all these other tasks that aren't as engaging, but are required by the business. And I think there's a lot of folks struggle a lot. And actually, I bring this up in different videos on occasion, but professionally, I make video games, and I have made different roles: designers, producers that run studios. But generally speaking, I've worked on games that were, just a few people, all the way up to 100+ people on a single title. And so I've worked on a lot of video games, and professionally over the years, I've grown in my ability to delegate more effectively. But despite that experience, I did find myself and have found myself struggle delegating things when it comes to pencil first games, which was interesting to me. And it's something that I've been thinking about through this process. And I think it has to do with, I think there are roles, responsibilities, managers on a video game project, especially as they scale up, and tools and technology and sort of understandings on roles, responsibilities, delegation, right? Whereas with a small company with a Kickstarter, there's just a bunch of work that you're doing, and it's really very particular and specific to your product and your experience, and it's hypercritical because it's your dream and you want it to be perfect. So there's this great possession that happens, this great grab. And you calcify around it, and you have to claw away to start sharing things. But that's what I want to talk about. And this is pretty straightforward stuff, but I think my hope is that this video is an opportunity for you to think about it. Be like, hey, am I delegating? Are there things I could be delegating that I'm not? Etc. Okay, so what's delegation? Delegation is the transfer of responsibility on a specific task from one person to another. Right? In the context I'm talking about, it's stuff you do that you would be good for somebody else to do. And I think that, why shouldn't you do it all, right? Why shouldn't you be the person that does everything? Now, to some extent, when it's small early on, maybe that was fine. There's nothing wrong with enjoying all parts of the process and doing the work. Certainly this video isn't to say you should delegate everything and do nothing. Though, philosophically, at many times, I'm sort of I've succeeded. This is more on the video game side, but I've succeeded if everyone around me is trained, has the expertise and ability where I don't need to do anything. Everything's smooth. Everything's running and humming. No problems. If I can disappear for more than an hour, great. If I can disappear for a day, if I could take a week vacation without it imploding, that's success. But as you move forward and are doing more, and you're, again, it's sort of the Kickstarter's now exploded and you're in retail and you're working on your second Kickstarter, right? As you move beyond that first, seed of development, which, could be you or you and the artist or the designer or whomever. One, you might not be doing those jobs well enough. You might be failing you might be doing the jobs, but not doing the jobs with enough attention, care, etc., to make sure they're done well. And as a result of that, you may have unforeseen problems, mistakes, misses, because you don't have the bandwidth, you don't have the sort of interest, and you're making mistakes. And so over time, as more stuff comes on, you pay a penalty you might not be seeing through mistakes, lower quality, etc. So there really is a cost over time when you're not delegating, as the amount of work and the range of stuff escalates, right? Another important reason to delegate would be like, some people are better at stuff than you, right? Like perhaps you can do social media, perhaps you can do manufacturing, perhaps you can do all these other elements, but there might be somebody on who you know who's on your team, or somebody you can hire, somebody who can help that. And I'm not really talking about going through the process of identifying people and doing that, but there might be another person who's just better at that job than you are, and by delegating that to them, they then do a better job than you did. Maybe it's a job you sort of like, but they just do it better. And trust me, you want the folks around you to be doing great work, and if there's something you're doing and it's not being done well enough, and there's like a difference between you messing up and just being really good at it, I think you'll find and see the growth opportunity improvement when somebody who's qualified to be doing it does it. I remember an interesting example with Anna Maria Jackson Phelps and the Pencil First Games Celebration Day last year. Was it last year? I think it was last year. And this was a day to celebrate Pencil First Games, and we wanted to like do some events for people to do Pencil First Games stuff. And at the time, Anna Maria was doing some contract social media stuff. And I thought about the celebration day. We all talked about it as a team. And, ultimately, we hadn't done it before this, so it's not the same type of delegation, but that became, her responsibility. She was taking care of that initiative. And in my mind's eye, when I thought of Pencil First Game Celebration Day, I thought of like, hey, I'll have like a kickoff stream, and then we'll just like do a community post, and people will talk about it, and maybe we'll have like a little Q&A at the end. Like announcement, hey, play some games, Q&A. And I would have thought that was a good job. But then I sat there and I saw her line up a deluge of different content creators and folks on Twitch and Twitter and Stream and YouTube, wherever, all different sectors, players, things in the community, communication. And I think I was talking to Keith Mateka about it. I was just like, she has done just such a better job, and like better job in a way that I had not even like considered being able to do. Like I was like, wow, that was amazing. Like that was way more awesome than it was. I even thought about it in my head. Anyway, so other people might be better. The most common thing, or very common reason to delegate, is these other things that are taking up your time, maybe taking up your time from your specialty. Like, yeah, maybe you can do, say, social media. Maybe you can manage the manufacturing. Maybe you can set up your playtests. Maybe you can do all of these things. But as they build up and as you do that, maybe now you're not doing the superpower thing that you are all about, which is designing fantastic games and making great products, perchance, right? Like, I know that a common conversation I have with Keith as Thunderworks Games is his business has exploded. He's doing fantastic, but he has less and less time to just make games, which is what exploded his business, and he's doing all these other things, and he does it well, and they're important. But part of it is figuring out how, and he is going through this process on his side to bring folks in to do that. I know Leader Games went through that, and like Lucky Duck Games, and like all of these folks that sort of started small, but then sort of had the initial creator energy behind it. They were getting drained into small tasks and had to free themselves to go back to what they do best, which is make fantastic games, and that's better for everyone because we get more and more fantastic games. So not only is there you might be dropping a ball, you might not be doing as good a job on that job, but then there's this idea that it's taking your time. There's opportunity cost for you to be doing this stuff. A different way to think about it as well, like on the video game side, is by focusing and dealing with all the little minutia, which isn't a problem, but by doing that, you might be not able to see, you might miss the forest for the trees and not being able to see the big picture. So being able to have the cycles to step back and be like, hey, in a grand scale, is this gigantic multi-million-dollar thing tracking or is it not? That's an important thing that you need to have the time to do and have the cycles to do. So lastly, and this one is amazingly important, if all those things aren't true, like if you're doing a great job and you're doing better than everyone else and you still have time to do your special powers, chances are you don't have time for yourself and you don't have time for your family. Chances are you're working 80, 90, 100 hours a week, and you're leaving that business on the side. And that's another thing that is amazingly detrimental, maybe not in the moment, but over time, to your attitude, to your health, to your relationships, to your longevity. Like, it's a cost you're paying. There's the expression, burning the candle from both ends and all that stuff. But these are really important reasons, okay? And so that's what you should be thinking about. So like as a starting point, huge value. Like if you took one thing away, get a piece of paper and write down what I do. And then just list all the text. You can put in categories, but just list everything. And then maybe make a column like where you rank yourself A to F, 1 to 10, whatever you want, on how well you do that job. And then a column that is like, can somebody else do that job? And then look at it, do I know anybody who can do that job? Is it like somebody I would need to hire? Is it somebody on the team who's already really skilled? Is it that person who's really coming up? So really just stop and think about your day, your work. If that's like too hard for you to think about what you do, just have that piece of paper to your left and literally spend a day or a week, just anytime you do anything, write it down. Or Excel, whatever. But like it's not that hard. But that you should be able to look at it and you'd be like, oh man, that's a lot. Or I hate half of these or whatever. But exposing to yourself the truth of yourself about what you do is a big deal. And I really, really, really recommend it. So please, if you want to stop, save the next 10 minutes of this thing and do that. I think it'll go a really, really long way. And I highly, highly, highly recommend it. Okay. So now you have that information in front of you. Part of delegation, and this is so you now know things. You're like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. You do want to identify the right people. And it's really easy. It's really easy to want to just hire the expert, somebody who's fantastic at X. But that person's not always available or oftentimes too expensive. There's all sorts of reasons why you can't just hire a specialist for 17 different roles. You're probably maybe only have one other person or a couple contractors. You don't necessarily have the gang. But what you can do is you can start identifying people who you have are available and think a little bit less about whether they today know how to do the job and more about whether they have the disposition, communication, attention to detail, to a desire to learn and want to take on some of those responsibilities and essentially work. And that's a really important distinction because the reality is when it comes, this is what I've come to learn in many ways. Again, making video games is a broad thing. There's all different, categories of work. But board games are fairly specific. I don't want to say more specific than, but your company's games and your partners is really specific. That small, that chunk, that information, that those jobs you're clutching are super specific. It's exactly your game. It's exactly your business. It's exactly your Kickstarter. So it's not no matter what, nobody knows how to do that. They might know how to do things like it. They might be familiar with the process, but the actual ins and outs of how do you track things? What's your spreadsheet? What tools do you use? It's all about how you've been managing to, build this setup that allows you, because you've been working 80 hours a week, you're building up this setup that is allowing you to succeed. So over here, I write an email here and I do this, but I don't do that there, and I have this spreadsheet and I go here and it's over here because this wacky configuration of work-life reality is how I can operate this business and have a full-time job and have a family and do all this stuff at the same time. It all has to happen this way. That happens Tuesday because that's the day I'm not picking up the kid. Do you know what I mean? That's so it's hyper-specific to you. So no one's going to know how to do that. Again, that's specifically. So what you're going to do is you want to find somebody, again, who wants it, who's reliable, dependable, really good communicator, and attention to detail. Why are these things so important? Well, these things are super important because what you're about to do is you're about to train them and you're about to open up the idea of there's always risk in your business, but you are going to be allowing somebody else to take on risk instead of yourself, and there may be failures. And to delegate, you have to accept that. You have to accept that there may be some problems and there may be some issues. Maybe not do it all at once, but might talk to a partner the wrong way. I mean, I remember, I don't know if it was Anna or Jessica, we had something where, they were emailing about a bunch of a contact list for reviewers and stuff. And it was like emailing people about, do you want this game to do your review or something? And Rodney Smith was on that list. And so Rodney Smith doesn't do reviews. You don't say, hey, will you do my Kickstarter preview for me? He does the how to play, watch it played rather, how to play videos, and they're paid, and it's a big thing. And I've developed that relationship. He's a very important person. It's an important relationship. And, basically he got a form letter. And I was making sure to be CC'd on everything. I was like, wow, you just sent him a form letter. That's Rodney. What are you doing? No. Okay, hey, what do we need to do? Let's have a meeting. Let's go through and talk about who each of these people are so you have that information. But you need to let those things happen. So you've identified this person, and then what you want to do is you want to be really particular about the work responsibility you're going to share with them. Hey, I want you to handle, let's talk about some big ones. I want you to handle Kickstarter fulfillment, or I want you to handle communication with the manufacturing process, or final rulebook editing and review, or I'm going to give you the password to our social media accounts, right? These things are a big deal at a business. And so you pick one of those. And what you want to do is define the goal, the outcome, what you're expecting. Really be clear of what is a good job? What would you like to see? How do you want it to work? What kind of vibe and feel do you want it to have? And what are all the pieces? Then you need to start the training. You need to take that person through all of the different steps. Start with shadowing. Start with you doing the task and them seeing you do the task. Super easy. Online digital tools. You can just let somebody watch you work pretty easily and say, I go here, stream your, a video, show your desktop. Go here, I go here. Let them understand your process. Let them understand the things you do to make sure you didn't mess up. Oh, well, I always copy this and I go over here. Make sure they're taking notes and following. You will let them do it their way eventually, but at first you want them to do it your way. You want them to understand your way so you can monitor it. And that's super important because it's an important task to you. So you want to train them. You want to spend the time you want them to know what their objective is. You want to spend the time for them to know how to do it and succeed at it. And then you want to make sure you provide them with the resources and authority to do their task. Well, what does that mean? Well, give them access to the accounts they need access to. Let them have the files they need to use. Let them, represent you in a conversation. And part of this is you want to have a very clear communication channel with that individual, whether it's Slack or Facebook Messenger or whatever, where you are able to talk to them back and forth really easily and really quickly. That's important. But you don't want to stop them in group communication. You don't want to stop them talking to a partner. You want them to do it. And then if you identify a mistake, issue, otherwise, you want to have that feedback loop. As part of training, you might be like, don't send that email, send it to me first. I'll review it and give you feedback first, right? You want to have the checks and balances, but as it moves, the goal here is for you not to be in the loop. The goal here is for you not to be the person who the partner thinks they have to talk to get something done. Because then you're not delegating. Then you have an assistant maybe, you have somebody helping you, but you don't have the ability to disappear, and that person doesn't have the authority or the traction or trust with the partner to be like, yes, this is what we're doing. Not, oh, but does that person agree with that? And that's a big deal. And so, it's part of this process. You need to let that person fail. You need to let that person take risk. You need to be patient because the reward for being able to have somebody do an ongoing task, for forever is super high. Also, I think another important piece, and it depends on the job and the role and all that stuff, or responsibility. One, be appreciative of the effort. Give positive feedback. You got to give reinforcing negative feedback. You got to like be like, hey, that was a mistake. Don't do it that way. You have to train. It's important to train. But what you need to also do is say, hey, that was a good email. Nicely done. I wouldn't have written it differently. You know, that kind of thing. Or, hey, look, we got that deal. Nice job. I didn't get that deal. You got that deal, right? Those are really important points in elevating and leveling somebody up and helping them train and get better at what they're doing. Also, to the extent they're taking responsibility or like to give credit to those folks in public, in the rules, wherever is appropriate as it happens, such that they're also getting credit and getting visibility outside of you just giving them direct acknowledgement. So that's another step to reinforcing their success and doubling down on it. Small little bits. But you know, give people the opportunity to try, see how they're doing. If they fail, you know, and sometimes some people aren't. Some like I've had situations where somebody's great picking up responsibilities, and like there's two common things that can happen. One, the first three responsibilities were things that were like in their wheelhouse and they were good at. You feel they're doing so good, you just want to dump everything on them, and then you dump something on them that they're just not. You know, sometimes like somebody who's very technical, detail-oriented, but doesn't maybe have the creative side or the insider knowledge or the business background or whatever, then they start struggling, right? You don't take everything back. You just say, oh, hey, this is a little harder. Maybe we need to train you more. Maybe we need a different person to check it out. Could be that. That's super common. Another common one is this person's taking everything on, kicking butt. Awesome. This is like, you're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. And then suddenly balls start dropping. You're like, what's going on? This person was great. Well, a couple things. One, something could be happening in their life. You should be familiar with what's going on. But they also might now be overloaded. Like they might now have the problem you had, but they didn't grow it over time. They just got it layered on top of them. And so one of the things that I emphasize with folks all the time is like, I need you to tell me if you are struggling. I might notice, but if you're confused, if you're struggling, if you're overwhelmed, if you're any of those things, tell me. Just tell me. Let's talk about it. We'll figure it out. Like, you know, again, like I got Edism, maybe if you want to call it, I would say a lot is like, I can do all these jobs, right? The definition here is these are the jobs I know how to do. So if you can't do it, it's cool. It's like, it's all right. I'll take it back or I'll help or all those things. So it's really, I think, a big deal to have a strong line of communication. So anyway, listen, I don't know if this is all obvious stuff, if it was helpful. I do hope so, but I would definitely go back to, hey, chances are there are some things you're doing that somebody else could help you with. They may be available, you might have to hire them, I don't know. Make that list of all that work. Figure out what you want to do and what you're great at and what you don't want to do and what anyone else could do. And then just start cutting from the list. And as you cut things off the list, that free time will open up. And as that free time's open up, you'll get more clarity in your brain. You'll have more time to think. And then maybe you figure out more ways or you have more time to train somebody to do something else. So really, please think about it, spend some time on it, and hopefully everyone succeeds and delegates and makes great games, right? Okay, thanks. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks. Bye.